Hey my good friends, Sam Haymart with Test Driven TV. Today we're test driving the all-new redesigned 2022 Mercedes-Benz C300 sedan. All new for this year, so I'm going to show it to you inside and out. We're going to take it for a drive, and then I'm going to tell you what I really think. For 2022, the Mercedes-Benz C300 sedan is all new and rides on what Mercedes-Benz calls, if you are around the brand, the W206 architecture. It has a 1-inch longer wheelbase and is 2.5 inches longer than the last generation C-Class. Now, the C-Class used to be the base model sedan in the Mercedes-Benz lineup. Now, because it's grown over the last few generations, it's no longer that. The A-Class takes its place at the entry level place. So this is really more in the mid-size range where it used to be sort of a compact. This particular model we have here prices out at exactly $49,000 with destination fees. It is the Pinnacle package with a number of standalone options. One of those options being the 18-inch wheels that you can see here, a little bit dressier than the standard alloys. But looking at the design, this has very traditional looks, though it is all new. The face, you can definitely tell this is a Mercedes-Benz from across the parking lot. Headlights on this one, some very nicely designed LEDs. Those are standard across the entire lineup. The hood has the double dome design, which is becoming sort of a Mercedes-Benz staple these days. But the overall detailing that you can see, very much fitting of its price. Coming down the side, you can see in the silhouette C-Class, very similar to the last generation. Long nose, short deck, and looking at the roofline, that is very similar to the last generation, but the draping of the sheet metal and the creases down the side are quite different. Looking at the rear three-quarter view, the deck lid's got a nice little bit of a sort of a spoiler-like shape, and then the taillights, contemporary Mercedes-Benz. These are, of course, LED taillights. This one has a power deck lid. Press a button that pops open for you all the way up. The only thing that I'd point out here that not really my favorite detail is down in the lower bumper. You can see some beautifully designed exhaust tips. Unfortunately, they're not the real thing. They're fake. They're just doilies. They're like dime store trinket decorations that aren't real exhaust tips. If you look up under the bumper, there's actually an exhaust pipe that's nowhere connected to those. And I just think it's unbecoming of a brand like Mercedes-Benz. I think they could really do a lot better. The interior of the C-Class is really where I think you really get the Mercedes-Benz experience with this car. Sitting behind the wheel and looking around, the design here is completely new from the ground up and very modern, yet has a lot of retro-inspired touches that sort of take you back to Mercedes-Benz sedans of the 70s and the 80s. Modernity does, however, come to this retro feel. Ahead of me is a large 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster, and it is fully customizable. You can set the screen design to a number of different setups, and you can customize what you're looking at on that screen. I really think it's one of the best in the business when it comes to digital screens, and it's fully controllable on the steering wheel here with touch sensitive thumb pads, and the steering wheel itself is very high quality. I love the next generation design of Mercedes-Benz controls and the overall look of it. It does have paddle shifters for the 9-speed automatic transmission, and looking over to the center stack, well, it is essentially a large 11.9-inch screen, and just below that, some hard controls, also touch sensitive, to allow you to control a lot of the same things you can by using the screen menus, but you have shortcuts here with that. The center console has a really nice pattern design on it with the finish. You can push this open, and this reveals cup holders down below, a nice storage slot, and just ahead of that, a wireless charger for the cell phone is optioned here. Clamshell doors open at the rear of the center console for a storage area in the back. It's about the footprint of a square tissue box, but not quite deep enough for one to fit down in here. It's about average for this class of car. The seats that I'm sitting in here, a sienna shade of MB Tex, which is vinyl. Of course, you can option a variety of leathers here, but these are actually very nice. And this particular material not only looks and feels like leather, but I didn't find myself sweating on it like I do some vinyls. They're very comfortable, very supportive. They're fully power operated, both for the driver and the passenger, and both the driver and the passenger have memory settings, not often seen. And then this does have also heated seats. In a world of SUVs, it's actually becoming less commonplace to sit down low in the back of a sedan, and that is the experience here. As you can see, we're not sitting up high with sort of an elevated seating position that you might expect to find in a crossover. Here I'm sitting down low, but I do have plenty of room. These seats are set for my height, about 5'8", with my shoes on, and you can see I've got plenty of leg room, which means somebody quite taller than me could be sitting here and it'd be just fine. Headroom, I've got about 3 inches above my head. And even though I am sitting down low in these seats, there's a pretty good level of shape and support here. They're not a flat bench by any stretch. And the level of amenities back here in terms of comfort, very good. I've got vents at the back of the center console, which are blowing cold air on me right now because it's over 100 degrees here today in Arizona. And so that's always something I would expect to find here in a car, especially in this price range. This back seat, it does fold down in a 40-20-40 split. I actually did that this weekend buying some things at the big box home store. And so you can slide big things in through the trunk. And the trunk space is actually quite generous for a car of this size. Looking under there, you're not going to find a spare tire here. Instead, this car comes with an emergency inflator kit. I'm very impressed with this interior. It has excellent quality of materials. The wood finish on the dash, the switchgear, the metal, and the different plastics that are used in here just really speak to its price tag. And the build quality is really bar none. This is a car that's actually constructed in South Africa, in Mercedes plant down there. And it's the first car I've ever actually test driven that was built on that continent. And I wouldn't have known the difference. This very well could have been built anywhere else in the world, including Germany. This interior gets 5 out of 5 stars. The infotainment system here is center stage, 11.9-inch touchscreen, and it is one of the best in the business. I'm just going to be a spoiler right here. This is optioned with the video augmented upgrade package when it comes to the multimedia experience, and it does also have the Burmester audio. It's a pretty big upgrade, but well worth the money. The audio quality here is absolutely phenomenal. You've got a variety of sources, Sirius XM, FM, AM, TuneIn radio, and this of course does have the connectivity with Bluetooth, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, wireless, and so there's a variety of ways to connect up to it. It has an excellent 360-degree view camera system that's optioned here. Really helps to do things like parallel park, backing up, anything when you're in tight situations. Scrolling around and using the menus here, the graphics are amazing, and it's one of the most intuitive systems I have ever seen, particularly with all of the different stations. You can scroll back and forth. You can see highlights of the ones just before and after. I just absolutely love this infotainment system. It is one of the best in the business, if not the best. It gets 5 out of 5 stars. All right, my friends, let's take a drive. And the first question I always like to ask is, how does it go? So we'll come to a complete stop here and go. Nice little burst of power there. And 60. So it is just a little bit slow off the line. It is a small engine, but once it gets moving, it does have a nice, formidable amount of thrust. What's under the hood here is a 2-liter 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. It has 255 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque. It has an auto start-stop system, which actually stops the engine at a stop sign, and then when you let off the brake, the engine starts up and you go. Not one of my favorite systems in the world. I've actually had it turned off all week. The engine delivers power to the rear wheels here through a 9-speed automatic transmission. The whole system actually works quite well. An additional facet of this powertrain is that it has Mercedes-Benz 48-volt electrical system with EQ boost, and that means it's a mild hybrid. It has an integrated starter generator motor that's between the engine and the transmission, and that works as the engine starter, it's the generator, and it also provides up to 20 horsepower of additional horsepower for power when it's needed, or just a little bit of a boost, hence the name EQ Boost. I have tested the system in a number of other Mercedes-Benz vehicles. It works very well. It isn't necessarily about powering the car in an electric mode, although it can help you sail and coast at times. It's a mild hybrid. It's just about adding some extra fuel efficiency here. And to fuel efficiency, this is rated at 23 city, 35 highway, and 27 mpg combined. And the system works well because in my week with it, driving a little bit more city than highway, I actually achieved 28 miles to the gallon, a little bit better than promised. And keeping in mind, the air conditioner was on the whole time, and the auto start-stop system was turned off because I don't like it. And Mercedes-Benz is nice enough that they put that auto start-stop button to turn it off right next to the engine start-stop button, so you can start the engine and move your finger and just turn that system off right away. Better than bad. So this is a powertrain that, while in a car like this, I might normally expect a 6-cylinder or even a V8 like they used to put in a C-Class, this 4-cylinder not only provides more than adequate power, it's actually sporting, dare I say it, but refined at the same time. This powertrain gets 5 out of 5 stars. Now, when it comes to ride, drive, and handling, this does have a 1-inch longer wheelbase than before. It's a larger car. And I think the first thing I would tell you is that this is a car that, in its feel, the way it rides and drives, is very traditional Mercedes-Benz. It has a soft, pillowy ride on the comfort setting, and in that way it does have drive modes, which you can set to sport, comfort, and other settings. And that is tied to not only the steering feel, the throttle response, how the engine and the transmission responds, but this does have adaptive dampers on it, which means the shock valving gets stiffer when you put it in sport. It gets a little bit more mild when you put it on comfort, for example. That means you can tailor the ride and handling of this car the way you want it. And that's across all of the trim grades here. And so if it gets a little bit too soft and cushy, I can dial it up to sport and have a little bit more of an aggressive handling stance. Around town in my neighborhood, going over speed bumps, speed humps, potholes, manhole covers, the suspension has a very refined feel. This has a 4-link independent suspension at the front and a 5-link independent suspension at the rear. And that's something you expect in a Mercedes-Benz. And because of that, and all of the tuning and the years and decades of engineering that goes into this car, it just has a very refined, solid feel, not only around town, but out on the highway. And its speed, wind noise, and road noise is actually very low. On our 70-mile-an-hour test, this got 61.5 decibels, which is on the lower side of average. Not the quietest car we've tested, but it is a good quiet number, and wind noise and tire noise being about equal in that number. It just feels like luxury. It feels its price. So this chassis, I'm actually quite impressed with. It gets 5 out of 5 stars. I am duly impressed. At $49,000, I really think this is the sweet spot of the Mercedes-Benz sedan lineup. We're right in the middle, and you can spend a lot more buying a Mercedes-Benz sedan. If you go up into the E-Class or the S-Class, here we have a car that's just as big as the E-Class or the S-Class once was long ago, but we have a price which is a little bit more value-oriented, dare I say it. At $49,000, there are a lot of vehicles out there that you can buy that are far less vehicle. You don't get the Mercedes-Benz experience. Here you've got the traditional sedan Mercedes-Benz experience. Front engine, rear drive, the quality, the feeling of solid build. I mean, it's just, drive it. You'll see what I'm talking about. If you've been around Mercedes-Benz, this is the good old same old thing, only with the modern things we expect, the handling, the performance, the efficiency, and of course the features. So I'm very impressed with the value. I put that at 5 out of 5 stars. As you can see here, all the metrics line up well. And when you put that in with everything we've already talked about here, we're at 5 stars for the review. Very good. Very impressed. In fact, this is a car that is right on the cusp of going on my I'd buy it list. In fact, it would be there, but for these fake exhaust tips. I just couldn't do it, man. Call it dogma, call it whatever. It's subjective. I couldn't spend this kind of money on a car that's doing this. Mercedes, give me a car without these things and I'd buy it. Enough said. So there you go. If you like what we do here, please follow us on social media. We have our links down below. See our latest video right there. Better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel right down there. Either way, stay tuned.